The difference between the game now and the game then, you know, we didn't have any foreign players in our football club. It was more difficult for players to move abroad then.
In the 70s, most of the players were British. There was a lot of rivalry between England and Scotland. Like at Leeds, we had Billy Bremner, Norman Hunter, Joe Jordan, Gordon McQueen, David Harvey, all played in the Scotland team.
There was an actual time when I was at Leeds United, I've got a photograph somewhere in the loft at home that there was 17 Scots at the club at the one time. Don Revie loved Scottish footballers.
The reason for the change was work permits. England or Britain joined the European community, restricted the lifting of work permits, and then slowly we get foreign players coming into the game.
The value of British players is very high, so when you go to buy a player from another club nowadays, they ask absolute top dollar. You can usually get more of a bargain abroad than you can here.
If we're looking at the teams today, they're massively populated by overseas players.
Today you can go into the Chelsea changing room or the Liverpool changing room and you need to be fluent in sort of 6 or 7 languages.
I saw an Arsenal team very recently, there was not one English player in the team.
And I don't think that young English players will ever get the proper opportunity till the game starts to suffer financially. But that doesn't look as if it's going to happen for many years.
But if we look at the game today, with the influx of overseas players now, clubs, particularly those that are competing in Europe, have had to learn to play a more patient, passing game. So the game is sometimes slowed down to an extent that would never have happened in the 70s. 70s football was hell for leather, and speed, strength, endurance were the qualities that you would expect to see. Now clubs, to prosper in European competitions where there is big money, have to learn to play a more patient game if they're playing continental opposition.
Foreign players are coming into the country and they're improving the game and improving the way football's played in this country. I don't mind that.
In the 70s, the fans were from the local area. People would, get on the bus, go to the game.
I grew up with Don Revie and all the players that they've got in that era. I grew up with them. I knew them all as young boys, 16, 17-year-old. And as I say, getting to know them, going to training and everything, we got to know them very, very well.
We could play a match at Leeds United, for example, and maybe wander across to the pub across the road after the game, maybe have a pint with some of the supporters. That type of thing would just never, ever happen now.
Funny enough, when I first played in the football team, I never drove till I was 22, 23, and I played for the football club till I was 17. So I used to catch buses going to the football ground, and the fans would be on the bus with you. And I used to catch the bus home, and the fans would be there, talking about the game. And they would give you their thoughts if they didn't think you'd played too well, in no uncertain terms.
I can recall once being in London, we didn't know how to get to West Ham. We went to the team hotel, sat having a coffee with Don Revie, and he said to us, follow the coach in your car and we'll escort you to the ground, and they did.
And the fans were so involved that they took measures of revenge on me. Fire brigades used to arrive at my house at midnight, bursting the door down, saying a fire had been reported. There's me in my pyjamas, kind of terrified. And I used to get abusive letters through the mail. Now, that was a degree of enthusiasm on the part of the fans which kept the clubs going.
I would get to Ellen Road about 1:15 for a 3 o'clock kick-off. Go round to the players' entrance, try and get a few autographs. About 2 o'clock then we'd queue up to go into the ground. Get into the ground about 2:15 and the atmosphere would start to build up. And as I say, then 3 o'clock was kick-off. After the game, depending on who we were playing, if it was a London team, we'd be straight down to the station to get the autographs before they got the train back to London. So it was a whole day.
I think the gap between supporters nowadays and football players is huge, whereas in our day it wasn't simply because we weren't awash with money. We maybe run about in similar cars to what some of the supporters, drank in the same pubs, ate in the same type of restaurants, went in the same type of holidays, and there wasn't a huge gap in the money that we earned and they earned.
Players then, they could go out in the streets, they could go to restaurants, they could go to bars, and I'm talking about top players now, and we were a top football club then. You know, everybody knew us in the country. But the publicity, the media focus on players now makes it so much more difficult for them to lead what I would call a reasonably normal life.
Now, because obviously of agents, it's don't sign the autographs, don't put your signature on this. They don't seem to be within the community today.
They've reached celebrity status like basketball players or entertainers, film stars. They've moved on to another planet, really.
The crowds would actually be the life and blood of the football club. The crowds that came to the games kept the football club going. And that's a difference, and the fans knew that then. So they get right behind their team, and it was like a community, because they were the people that were keeping the football club going.
There was no live coverage at all. You could never see your team on television unless you saw a match of the day, where there was probably just one game on, and that was it.
Well, in the 70s, of course, the league would not be happy to have live football, because that would deter the fans from turning up and paying their money through the turnstiles. That was the main income for the club.
I mean, at Ellen Road, say that, you know, we would be getting 50,000, 48,000, 50,000 every week. But they people paying their money through the turnstiles paid the players' wages.
They were earning very good wages, you know, pop star wages, but it's still not stratospheric in terms of, say, John Terry's £150,000 a week.
The money that football's awash with nowadays comes from the television. It used to be supporters were saying, well, we pay your wages because of buying season tickets and buying tickets to go to the matches. Not anymore. That's not the case. It's the television that pay the wages.
Today, we've moved on to another planet entirely, where the top paid stars are on, you know, 6 figures plus per week.
Basically, it's television, you know, that pay the players' wages, sponsorship, advertising. So it's completely changed. And I think the supporters sense that now. I don't think there's the same loyalty as such towards the football club.
There's something about going to watch a match live. And even now, when you can get your 40-inch flat-screen TV and watch it in high-definition colour, and of course you're getting the sound from the ground, but it is not the same as actually being at the ground and getting the atmosphere of the crowd, understanding what the chants are and getting the humour of the crowd. There is something, there's a bit of a buzz about being at a live match. And I think the kids of today, who perhaps watch a lot of their football sitting in an armchair, are missing out on something.
I think if fans from nowadays were lucky enough to get to Ellen Road in those days, I think they'd love the passion.
We're all working class guys, you know, and playing in front of crowds like 50 or 60,000, it was a dream come true.
When you hear people saying about the hair standing up in the back of your neck, you get that type of feeling when you're running out. The adrenaline's absolutely bursting.
Great players years ago would still have been great players today because they'd have adapted to the conditions. Great players in any era would always have been great players.